It's rare for a game from a huge series like Gears to fall under the radar. Yet, that is exactly what happened to Gears Tactics. This is because it isn't a third-person shooter like the series' main entries. Instead, it's a turn-based tactics title where you must organize and order around your squad in an effort to defeat your opponents in battle. So it's all about planning and strategic thinking, which isn't really the case for the other Gears games. Yet, it still has a similar style and presentation to the other installments, and you're still spilling plenty of Locust blood. You can't say that HiFi Rush has been completely overlooked, as critics loved it and a bunch of people played it. Yet, it still feels like the game deserves more attention. After all, it's one of the Xbox Series XS's best and most original games. The premise is that you're playing as someone who accidentally gets a music player inserted into his chest while participating in a test program for a shady company. He is then seen as a defect by the said company, and they attempt to eliminate him. It's a bit of a wacky story, but that fits into the theme of the game. It's an outrageous and colourful experience where you're encouraged to keep up with the music beat as you put the beating on your enemies. Cocoon is a puzzle adventure game that puts you in control of a mysterious insectoid. It's not the only thing about the game that is mysterious. You aren't clearly told who you are, where you are, or what's going on. You're just tasked with completing puzzles, and you may be able to understand things while you play. Speaking of the puzzles, they're very creative and challenging. They mostly involve moving around world-containing orbs, yet there is plenty of variety to keep things interesting. One element that keeps your interest high is the ability to use these orbs to transport between different worlds. It makes for a unique gameplay mechanic. In fact, the entire game is unique, which is its main appeal. The Prince of Persia series was put on hold for many years as Ubisoft seemed to focus more on Assassin's Creed and Far Cry. However, it has made an incredible return with The Lost Crown. Well, it's an incredible return in terms of quality, as it's an engaging 2D action-adventure platformer featuring great visuals and fun combat. Unfortunately though, the game hasn't sold significantly well, which is why it's considered underrated. It's certainly worth playing. Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers perhaps hurt the company's Guardians of the Galaxy game before the latter even came out. The Avengers game was so disliked that many people seemed to expect the same for the Guardians title and didn't give it a chance. This is a shame since it's an excellent action-adventure game. It has solid team-based combat, interesting characters, and fantastic writing. In regards to the writing, the script is not only hilarious but also has plenty of depth as the story dives into serious topics like loss. You don't expect a Marvel game that includes the likes of Spider-Man and Captain America to ever be overlooked. Yet the sales of Midnight Suns were unimpressive and people don't talk about it too much. The fact it's a turn-based title probably contributed to its lack of attention, as not everyone appreciates the genre. It's a shame because Midnight Suns is an incredible game that not only offers enjoyable combat, but also has an engaging story. Plus, its social mechanics are very wholesome, as you get to make friends and create social clubs with iconic Marvel characters. Who doesn't want to participate in a book club with Blade, Captain Marvel, Captain America, and Wolverine? Penterman flew under the radar when it was released in November 2022. It probably didn't help that a few big games came out that same month, which took most of the attention. Pentiment deserves some love too though. It's a narrative-focused RPG, all about engaging in conversations and making decisions. The game is set in the 1500s, and you play as an artist-turned-investigator who is tasked with solving a series of murders. It's a fascinating adventure that is pretty to look at due to the brilliant art style and overall impressive presentation. Borrowing heavily from Nintendo's magnum opus, Immortal's Fenix Rising is about as close you can get to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild before a copyright claim is made. You get to explore a vibrantly colourful world filled with mythical beasts from Greek mythology on a quest to save the gods from a dark curse that has befallen the land. The game was released alongside the launch of the new generation of consoles and was somewhat overshadowed by this, despite having next-gen versions available. It also fell short when compared with Breath of the Wild and seemed to fall by the wayside among a sea of big AAA releases during the busy winter period. But it's one worth playing nonetheless. As Dusk Falls is a brilliant adventure title, where story and characters take precedence. More of an interactive drama, you must make measured choices on the fly that will have a significant impact on the characters and overarching story. It begs you to replay it over and over to experience its vastly different outcomes. Unfortunately, the game didn't take off quite as much, probably due to the passive nature of the gameplay. It's a shame as there is a fantastic narrative at its core, and it's an experience that blurs the lines between video games and cinema. It has a brilliant art style and pushes the boundaries of what games can be. Released alongside a sea of AAA heavy hitters, Citizen Sleeper went over a lot of people's heads in 2022. It's an immersive action RPG where you take control of a washed-up android nomad trying to survive while drifting through space on a giant lawless space station. Erlin's Eye Station is home to a vast population of outsiders who you can build meaningful relationships with. This poignantly told cyberpunk tale can go in wildly different directions depending on the choices you make and the individuals you spend the most time with. It is certainly a unique experience and is worth it for the interesting visuals and stellar soundtrack alone. Despite the game's great reviews and initial buzz around its release on Game Pass, the love for Tunic has died down a little since its launch. That's a shame, as it really is one of the most charming modern indie titles you can play. It wears its Zelda-infused inspirations on its long green sleeves. It features tough-as-nails combat inspired by the Souls series and the deeply engaging explorative backtracking of Metroidvanias. It also has a whimsically charming in-game manual, where you must collect the pages to help you unlock new areas and overcome puzzles. It's a nice throwback that more seasoned gamers will appreciate. As a top-down action RPG dungeon crawler, Nobody Saves the World moves away from the melee-infused side-scrolling of Guacamelee and instead has you traverse through a series of dungeons as a formless nobody who has the power to be pretty much anything it wants. You can transform in up to 15 different forms, with each offering different combat abilities, unique quests, and its own set of gameplay mechanics. All that transforming fun doesn't stop there, as you get to mix and match forms to your heart's desire, allowing you to combine abilities and play with powerful customized builds. Prodeus is a love letter to the glory days of first-person shooters, with all the retro-style pixelated gore and powerful over-the-top guns you can handle. Its graphics expertly merges the retro lo-fi pixels of games like Doom and Hexen with the impressive lighting and particle effects of modern titles. It's a striking combination that makes running and gunning through this violent world an absolute treat. As well as an action-packed single-player campaign, there's 4-player co-op, a variety of frantic multiplayer modes, and a surprisingly intuitive level editor that has already generated a load of cool community-created maps. Its fans adore it, but the game doesn't garner as much attention from the community as it should, despite its fantastic gameplay and ridiculously gorgeous visuals. As video game premises go, Tinykins is definitely unique and memorable. You take the reins of Milo, a space traveler who crash lands on Earth in an oversized domestic house in the 90s. You can jump, float, and soap glide your way through a house that has been taken over by a population of insects, ants, and the titular Tinykin. You must use your Pikmin-like ability to lead an array of these curious little creatures around the house to find the necessary parts to fix your ship and generally do your bidding. It's a colourful and whimsical platformer that takes elements from the Pikmin series and the beloved collectathon platformers from the 90s. It's a charming and delightful experience and should be experienced by more people, especially with its addition to Game Pass. Somerville is a smaller indie game that offers a truly unique experience. Fans of War of the Worlds will love this one, as it sees a man fighting to survive an invasion of Earth by strange structures and even stranger beings. Looking for his family, you must learn how to adapt if you're going to truly understand what happened. With strange characters to meet and supernatural powers to gain along the way, Somerville is easily a must-play, and being on Game Pass, it's so easy to give a try. Inspired by the brilliant twisted works of H.R. Giger, Scorn is a deeply atmospheric first-person horror title that turns up the creepiness to the max. It was released to underwhelming and lackluster reviews, largely due to subverting people's expectations of what the game actually is. There's something we can all agree on: it looks horrifyingly beautiful in all the right ways. The game focuses on head-scratching puzzle solving rather than all-out action, and is a slower, more measured experience because of it. The puzzles themselves are very difficult and the checkpoints are given out sparingly. You really need to be on your A game. Most players quit the game early due to frustration, but if you stick it out, there really is something special to be experienced. Immortality is more akin to an interactive story rather than an actual game, and that's more than okay. You are tasked with combing through hours of found footage live-action clips in an attempt to solve the murder of an illustrious actress. It's an extremely unique experience as you pull on an amalgamation of intriguing narrative threads to solve the mystery at the core of it all. It's one of the best video game stories of 2022 and is probably one of the greatest FMV titles to have ever been released. It's definitely worth at least a look for the film buffs out there.